Welcome to episode 4 of Riding Shotgun with Flying V. We are currently on our way back from the Bitterroot Valley in Montana, where we just dropped off Smoke, my 7.5-month-old Chesapeake Bay Retriever puppy. Just went to the trainers at Canton Retrievers in Stevensville, Montana. Got to meet Nick for the first time.
Yep, I accidentally called him Kyle.
You did, which the best part was you called him Kyle at the end of the whole meeting.
I know.
Even
I was just thinking about Kyle.
Yeah.
We were talking about Kyle.
Yep.
And then I was thinking about Kyle, but
Yep.
it's all good.
Yep.
Nick's a nice guy.
Nick's a very nice guy.
He's got a cool setup there.
Yep. Yeah, he's got a cool facility, cool spot. Got a good piece of land there, and then some other stuff that he leases with ponds. And, yeah, it looks like he's set up in the process of building a whole new kennel building.
Mm-hmm.
So
I thought it was pretty cool how he, right when he first met Smoke, he just threw a pigeon out just to see what the drive was.
yeah,
Yeah.
That was cool.
that was great. That was great. Yeah, I mean, dropping your dog off at the trainer is always a little bit bittersweet, right? I'm excited for him to be at boot camp and get some reps in and some time put into him. At the same time, as much as he was a bit of a terrorist, kind of going to miss that idiot for the next few months.
Yeah, I'll miss having him around, but it'll be good for him.
Oh, it'll be really good for him.
And we're going to get into hunting season, and, it's just like he's going to be benched the whole time anyways, so he might as well be making progress.
Well, and that's why I wanted to send him now. I mean, his age worked out well, right? I think the ideal time to go to a trainer's right around that 6 to 9 month mark. He'll go in, tighten up basic obedience, do collar conditioning, go through force fetch, and then move on through there. So,
Canton Retrievers, how did you decide? Because we had looked at a lot of different places together, and then all of a sudden one day you're just like, oh, there's this guy over in the Bitterroot that we need to talk to.
yeah, so obviously we've got our really good buddy Kyle Fagler down in Cheyenne, Guide's Choice Retrievers. Had lead a couple years, did a phenomenal job with lead, right? And I know he was kind of joking, but when I told Kyle I was going to get a Chessie, he's like, oh, no. Oh, no. And just got talking about training a Chessie, and we all know they're different dogs, right? And it's not that Kyle wouldn't have done it, but, after talking with Kyle, kind of made the decision, I probably should find somebody who's, trained Chessies, but also, ran hunt tests with Chessies and titled Chessies and has kind of a background of experience in Chessies. And so what I learned when I was doing research about the breeders and where to get a puppy, and I found, a few kind of trusted resources around the country. When I told them I was in Montana, 3 different people were like, oh, man, do you know where Missoula, Montana is? Yeah, yes. Man, there's a guy just south of Missoula that's a really good Chessie trainer, runs the hunt test game. He's a hunter. He's got experience, been doing it for a while. I mean, that's a good Chessie guy. And so I remember months ago, probably even before I got Smoke, reached out to him, chatted on Instagram. We exchanged numbers, chatted on the phone. I'm like, hey, man, I'm going to get a Chessie. When I do, you interested in training him, which of course he was. And the rest is kind of history. So we have stayed in close contact from going and picking Smoke up. When you and I were in Maine, he was messaging me about it and, let's see a picture and all the stuff. He was pumped about it. So
What does that process look like with, let's just say, Canton Retrievers? You want to go ahead and you got this Chessie, now you want to get it trained, you've picked the trainer, or at least have gotten a recommendation. What's the process from time of pickup until now, today, when we drop him off?
So, I think that, number one, the good trainers are usually pretty booked out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if a person is considering sending their dog to the trainer, even if they don't have the puppy in hand yet, or even if the litter's not born, but you're expecting maybe you're on a wait list or you're, expecting to get a puppy soon this year or next year, I think it's a really good idea to call and talk to trainers. I don't know if interview is the right word, but maybe you live in an area where there's a good handful of professional trainers around. The truth is, if I was you, I would go and meet the trainers.
Right.
Go see the facility, go watch them work dogs, go get a feel for kind of their program. And, I think every trainer's a little bit different too, because right now there's people that are a bit of a hybrid, but there's really kind of two camps. One of them is more of a British style training, which does not use e-collars, does not use force fetch. And then there's the traditional method, American style method, that does use e-collars, does use force fetch. Both of them put out really nice dogs. I don't necessarily have a bias either way. I've had them done both ways. But after the experience with lead went so well with Kyle Fagler and Guide's Choice, I really wanted to find somebody that had experience with Chesapeake Bay Retrievers, but also, used the e-collars, force fetch method, etc. going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that once you find the trainer you're going to, work with, I think talking to that trainer and figuring out timing. So, for example, some trainers in the southern part of the United States, they will spend a majority of their summer up here in the North Country. They'll summer up here. Some trainers up here will winter like down in Texas. So if you send your dog off to the trainer, this time of year, that dog might be getting on a truck and moving to Texas for the winter, for example, right? Now, Nick at Canton Retrievers, he stays and trains here in Montana, all winter. Same with Kyle Fagler in Cheyenne.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think time of year is important, but I think more than anything, it's the timing on the trainer's part, and it's the timing and age of the puppy. Not that you can't teach an older dog new tricks, but there's a lot of data and a lot of science backing up the idea that, the ideal time to have a dog go into professional training is somewhere around that 6 to 8 month mark. They're going to go through teething around 4 months, so they need to lose their baby teeth, regrow their permanent teeth. Retriever puppies, you're retrieving them with, doing fun bumpers when they're little puppies. And then I usually stop throwing those retrieves during the teething stage, because what it does is they pick up those bumpers and their mouths are sore. It makes them want to get in the habit of dropping bumpers. Mm-hmm. So I go through a period where I watch the teething process, and during that teething process, we're not, running bumpers and throwing bumpers. We might be working on place training or something else, right? Just basic stuff. Then as soon as they're done with that and they grow out of that, I know a lot of people do send their dog to pro trainers at 5-6 months old right after teething. That's fine. I've always had good luck sending them around the 7 to 8 month mark. I think Lead, when Lead went for his first go around, just based on the timing and time of year and transportation and everything, Lead was, I want to say like 8.5 months old when he went for the first time. So, it's somewhere in that window is kind of seems to be the sweet spot.
Is it safe to say that when you get your puppy, you can start doing some of the things, talk to your trainer, start doing some basic obedience and talk, working with your dog, at least to some level to get him used to you?
Yep, absolutely.
Is there any things that you shouldn't do with your puppy before you bring him?
In my opinion, and again, in this world, everybody's got an opinion. In my opinion, I think what you want to do with that puppy is develop the prey drive, the drive to retrieve.
You don't care about him bringing it back. You just want him to go get it.
Yeah, they'll bring it back, but I don't care if it's a perfect delivery to hand. I just want him to be fired up on retrieving, period. Just want to go have fun, go get it, have fun with you, learn some respect, learn some simple basic rules. Step one, we always are crate training, getting the dog comfortable if the dog's going to be in the home, being in and out of the house. I also like to work on socialization. So socialization with new people, new places, new dogs. So just getting that dog to be a well-rounded individual. He can ride in the truck. He or she can ride in the truck. They can sleep in the crate overnight. They can go on trips with us. I mean, you think about the puppies we've had over the years from day one when they're 8 weeks old and they're in our possession. I mean, if we're gone, they're gone with us.
I mean, we got one in tow right now.
Yeah, Dane's got a Catahoula puppy with us right now. And I think that's just a good thing. Just have them with you. Have them socialized. You know, we got to Canton Retrievers, and Dane gets to get rigs out and be in a whole new area, smell new people, smell new dogs, meet new guys, go to the bathroom, get back in the truck, hit the road again, just getting those reps in. Because when they go to the trainer's going to be very focused and very regimented, which is great.
Yeah,
it's what
boot
you want.
camp.
Yeah, right, it's boot camp. But that dog has learned how to travel, how to act around other dogs, how to act around other people, how to sleep and be in the crate, how to travel, etc. That way, when, I get the dog back, which they're focused on the hunting dog, gun dog training, that way when I get the dog back, he is already ready to go. We already know he's comfortable traveling. We already know he can, handle our kind of lifestyle. He can handle everything just fine, and we can hit the ground running.
Again, that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm still curious if there's anything that you should not do with your puppy. I probably put a collar on it. You probably shouldn't put a e-collar on it.
Yeah, I think if you don't know what you're doing, don't put an e-collar. And I would put that under the umbrella of just don't push too hard if you know for sure the dog is going to training. Again, let the time with your dog be a time of socialization, bonding, and simple basic rules, and building the retrieving drive. Those would be the 4 things that I would suggest.
Got it. So how long is Smoke going to be there?
Well, it's always a little bit dependent, but in a perfect world for this go-round, so it's September 26th right now? Yeah, September 26th. Smoke would be there for 3 months, October, November, December.
Okay.
In that time frame, he should be able to get through, obedience training, collar conditioning, force fetch, steady on marks, retrieving singles, potentially doubles, and being steady and delivering back to hand. Once he does that, kind of like we talked to Nick about today, first of the year, January 1st, somewhere right in that window, Nick's going to bring Smoke over to us in Bozeman, and we'll spend a couple days hunting. It won't be hunts where we invite 10 of our closest friends. It'll just be us, likely one shooter at a time, just introducing Smoke to real-world hunt situations. Go out, shoot a handful of birds, make it a positive experience. Again, building that hype, that drive, right? Getting him more and more excited. He's already going to be jacked.
I'm really interested to see. I was talking to you about this a little bit earlier, but we didn't get into it. The transition period during the drop-off. I've noticed that when a lab, so I only have experiences with labs in this scenario.
Yeah.
When a lab comes home from the trainer, there is a transition period in which that dog has to go through to become comfortable with their owner again, right?
Yeah, kind of come back into.
Yeah, now, you're just not the trainer anymore, right? The trainer's been running them for 3 months, and now all of a sudden you're trying to provide the commands that the trainer was originally giving, and that transition period is a real thing, but it's fairly short, it seems like, with a lab.
Yep.
What I'm curious on and excited to see with a Chessie, because it is a hard-headed dog.
Different dog, yeah.
How much longer that transition is versus like 1 week or so for a lab. Is it going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Is it going to be 1 week?
Yep. Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see, and I think
because we don't know.
It brings up a good point too. When your dog is coming home from training, being able to go and spend some time with the trainer, working the dog, and learning the little nuances. For example, one thing we learned about Lead, and you remember this 2 seasons ago when he had just gotten back from Kyle Fagler's. We get out in the field and we're hunting, and so one example is a whistle stop, where you're going to blow the whistle, he's going to stop, then you can cast him back, angle back, over, whatever, right? And Lead gets out there, and I'm blowing a whistle stop, and I'd go toot, and he wasn't like fully blowing me off, but he wasn't mega sharp.
Right.
And I'm like, what in the world? And so we're kind of working, and finally it dawned on me, I'm like, well, maybe Kyle does a short whistle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember is when we were hunting at that place we leased the duck hole, and we had a duck sail off into the back pasture. I took him out there, blind retrieve, lined him up, sent him. He's going, and instead of going toot, I just went toot, and that dog just turned and sat down on a dime. I was like, okay, he likes the shorter whistle. Same thing. We just kept going, and I'm like, holy crap! Like that's a little trick to unlock. He just wasn't used to the toot. It probably confused him a little bit. He's like, that's a whistle. I should probably do something, but just that time frame where he was thinking about it had him a little, skewed off.
Yeah.
Whereas when I just gave him the quick toot, he just turned, sat, took the cast perfectly. So I think being able to spend some time with the trainer, which I did spend time with Kyle, and the fault is on me, I had just missed that aspect of listening to Kyle when he was whistle stopping lead.
Feels like it'd be good to be able to take notes when you're hanging out with the trainer, especially with the dog. The verbal commands are easy to remember. It was really nice of Nick to say, hey, here's what I do.
Here's the 5 commands I use.
Here's the 5 commands I use. I use here. You started in with come. I can do either one. But even just for whistle training, right? What do the cadences mean, right? Is it the 2 stops or 1 stop? Is it long? Is it short? You hear some guys blow their whistle for you're getting close, like hunt there. All right, you're there. Now go hunting.
Yeah, so for example, with lead will take a really quick, short, hard whistle to stop, right? Recall, toot, 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 come right back. But if he gets in the area of the deadfall of the bird and he's kind of hunting around, I'll give him a quiet, like, doot, 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 and he'll know right then, like, that's basically hunt the area you're in, buddy.
Yeah,
you're getting warmer. It's somewhere right in there. Just hunt right here. Yeah, stay in this area.
Get downwind, yeah.
And so he'll sit and work the area and, find the bird. One of the advantages that I'm excited about having Smoke with Nick at Canton is he's only 3.5 hours away. So we are going to be able to go, all of us once a month, swing back up to the kennel, spend an hour with Nick. I mean, you're never going to train a single dog for, more than an hour or so a day in one session. And so we can burn out there in the morning like we did today, go spend an hour physically and visually see the progress, and then also have some time to talk to Nick and learn, like, what are the little quirks this dog has?
Yeah,
because
what's happening?
Every dog has weird little quirks.
Right, what's happening?
And, well, I find that when I send him, he really likes to go right.
Leans to the right, yeah.
Or he tends to drift left, so you got to stop him, line him back, whatever it is. So we're going to be able to do that. And again, another advantage with Nick being a waterfowl hunter himself is when we're done with this few-month stretch, I mean, Smoke will by no means be trained.
No, he won't be finished.
He'll be lightly started.
Yeah.
But Nick is going to bring him back to us. We'll get to spend those first couple days hunting with Nick, with Smoke, and we can do the hunts. We can do some training sessions in the afternoons, and we can just work through these finite details so that, because ideally, let's say I get Smoke back around the first of the year, we're going to have a few weeks to hunt with him, and then I'll probably have him for the next 3 or 4 months before he goes back, right? Because we all know, like, training a dog outside here in February, March, I mean,
it's not a thing.
It's just shitty weather.
Yeah.
So if he can stay with me and I can run whatever drills Nick's been getting him going on, that again reinforces that bond between me and Smoke, because what I'm doing is just carrying on what Nick has already instilled into him.
Keeping the routine.
Keeping him sharp, right? Keeping the routine, keeping him sharp, so that when he goes back for round 2, he is not, the blade hasn't gotten dull. So he can just pick up and roll straight from there.
Will Nick do any water work with Smoke in this next 3 months?
Yeah.
He will do water work.
Yeah, he will do water work with Smoke. I mean, we all know in October there's going to be some cold fronts here and there, but there's going to be a lot of days that are 60, 70 degrees.
Oh, plenty, yeah.
And, I mean, Smoke already swims like an otter. He's very, very comfortable in the water. Of all the dogs I've had, every dog's been comfortable in the water, but this Chessie puppy has taken the water the quickest, the fastest of any dog I've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
I never had to do like an introduction to water like I've done with other puppies, where you're kind of playing with them and you're out in the water with them and kind of coaxing them in and showing them the water. I remember the one time we went to the fish pond on the ranch, and I was just letting him out to go to the bathroom. I mean, he was like 9 weeks old at the time. And Smoke bails off in the pond. There was a duck out in the middle of the pond. Bails off out into the pond, just starts swimming towards the duck. But a lot of times when puppies swim, they'll tend to get vertical. Their bodies will go vertical because they haven't figured out how to kick with their back legs yet. And so they're kind of splashing in the water like this, where they're, you know, getting their bodies horizontal and kicking and powering. I mean, this sucker jumped in the water at 9 weeks old and swam like a freaking otter straight at the duck. Duck gets up and flies, and I'm like, come back, dude. Like, I don't know if this dog is going to drown, if he's whatever. He just turns around, swims right back like nothing's wrong, gets out of the water, shakes off, and looks at me like, that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, he will do water work with him. He'll be able to handle it. Of course, as you get into, you know, late November, December, I mean, the water's going to be frozen. So,
yeah, you don't have to throw him in the water like John Wayne in that movie Big Jake when he takes that kid and just throws him off the pier because he doesn't know how to swim.
You want to learn how to swim? Best way to learn? Swim.
Go swimming. Throws him in. I think he throws – I actually think he throws the gal in.
Yeah. But the other thing is, in these first 3 months of gun dog training like this, there's generally not a lot of water work anyway.
That's why I was curious if they do any water work in the first 3 months.
I'm sure he'll do some bumpers in the water, but it's mostly, you know, obedience, collar conditioning, force fetch, steadiness, delivery to hand.
Got it.
I think that would be the order of events for Smoke, and none of that really requires water. You know, and in the training world, you don't want to ask the dog to do anything in water that he can't already do on land.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll get it solid on land, then you move to water, and then go through all the same stuff in the water.
So let's say everything goes according to plan with Smoke. He's hunting by January 1. We get him on a couple of hunts. Not a lot. We don't push it hard. It's very, very controlled environment. And then we have him for 3 months or whatever, 4 months, and then you send him back to Nick for month 4 through how long? Like, how long, on average, does a dog need to be at the trainer?
So, again, I'm going to preface everything. It depends on the dog.
I understand.
But let's say we do 3 months this fall.
Yep.
Then I have him for a few months, and then he goes back. I would think he would likely go back, say, you know, 1st of April, middle of April. So he'd be there April, May, June, July, August, 5 more months. I think typically somewhere between 8 to 10 months, that dog is pretty good. He should be, you know, handling doubles and triples. He should have strong marking ability. He should be able to stop on a whistle, take a blind, you know, be sent on a blind retrieve, stop on a whistle, and have basic casting done. From there, you know, I'm confident that I will then be able to take and fine-tune the casting from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, in theory, Smoke will be there all spring and summer next year. Ideally, if we start the end of September in our hunting, I'd like to get him back 1st to mid-September. That way, to your point about the transition period, I've got a couple weeks with him, work with him at home, work with him in the yard, getting everything, you know, copacetic between he and I. And then we roll into our season. And so next waterfowl season, 1 year from now, would be Smoke's very first full waterfowl season as, you know, kind of the starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So that would put him at 17 months old, 18 months old, which I like, right? I know some people bring their dogs into the field and they go hard when they're young. I've always had good luck, you know, letting them charge hard and letting them be a day in and day out gun dog when they're a little bit older. All right, we had some technical difficulties. The GoPro camera overheated.
It overheated, but we're back up and running. It's part of the show. You know,
we're rookie podcasters over here.
Well, it's just part of it. I mean,
it is.
We'll just find a little shade.
Semi-professional.
at some point, but
Semi-pro, just like Will Ferrell.
semi-pro. Yeah, in Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan.
When he wrestles the bear.
Jackie Moon, will wrestle a bear. Everybody's like, what? You heard it here.
Okay, so you were talking about dogs. You're talking about, what were you talking about before we had the snap?
We were talking about how I personally like for a dog to go into his first full waterfowl season, where he's kind of the starting quarterback, so to speak, at an older age. I don't want to do it when they're 10, 11 months old and just put them into the fire for, in our case, a 70 or 80 day season, because we're not just going hunting one day here, one day there, or 2 days here, 2 days there. With our line of work and what we do, once our season starts, there are obviously down days, but man, there's a lot of days where it's day in, day out, day in, day out. And then even the off days, still a travel day. So the dog's still, maybe in the truck for 6 to 8 hours. It's just an exhausting season for us too.
With that, talk a little bit. I've heard you talk about having multiple dogs and the timing on when you buy new puppies and why you do it. Talk a little bit about that.
Well,
what's the plan of attack? Right?
Yeah, the current plan of attack for me is that Led is 6.5 years old right now. He's in his prime. He's crushing. Led also, when he was a puppy, broke his shoulder. He had a bicep tendon avulsion, basically, and he's got a 4-inch titanium screw in his shoulder. Is he going to stay sound forever? We don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
And
he's gone lame a few times, and it's just like
he's gone sore.
Bounced back.
And he's bounced back, but it could happen any day where he just kind of implodes, and when that happens, God forbid it does, Led's done. And so because of the time it takes from getting an 8-week-old puppy to a dog that's actually ready to be a contributing member of the crew, let's just say it total is 2 years, it made sense to get another dog right now. Because, again, I hope Led lives to be old and live a pain-free life, but
we're back.
Part 2.
We're back
Part 3.
from second technical difficulties.
Part 3.
What we were talking about is the idea that Led is 6.5. We hope he's going to stay sound and live a long, happy, healthy life. But I don't want for something to go wrong with Led and then be at that point start looking for a puppy because we have a 2-year lag.
Right.
And I'll never do that. And so it was time for a puppy, so Smoke rolls in. Led's going to be the MVP this whole season. And then next season, Smoke's first full season, Led is still sound, Smoke's ready to go. It'll be really nice to have 2 dogs that can alternate.
Yep.
For 2 reasons. Number one, we're not, burning the candle at both ends on Led in his older years. And number 2, we're not putting a dog that's still a puppy through day in and day out just grind. He'll be able to have some breaks and, recuperate mentally and physically. Both of them will. And I think that will help prolong Led, and I think it will make Smoke's exposure into a first full waterfowl season just that much better.
It makes a lot of sense to me, and I've seen quite a few guys that run 2 dogs all the time.
And as much as we're hunting right now, guys, I told you there's another breeder in Minnesota that I've been talking to and actually have a deposit in with, and there's a chance that next year I get another puppy and go through that process again. So that dog would be, a 1.5 years behind Smoke. But again, as much as we're hunting, as much as we're traveling, whenever it happens the day that Led does go, it'd be really nice to have 2, finished dogs kind of in those prime years, those 3 to 8-year-old years, and be able to alternate back and forth and not just burn one dog out all the time.
Right. One thing that I picked up on from Nick mentioned he asked you what type of food you were feeding Smoke, and then he asked you if he could change it. Twofold. My guess is he just wants to keep all the dogs on the same food, so he wants to change it to the food that he feeds, correct?
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a huge aspect of it.
So, and you're okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, for the time he's at the training, no problem. So Smoke has been eating Inukshuk 30-25 dog food. I've really, really enjoyed feeding the Inukshuk over the last few years. He feeds Purina Pro Plan, which is fine. He's got some Inukshuk at his kennel now, and so he'll transition him over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 days, mixing the two foods, and then he'll be on Pro Plan like all the other dogs in the kennel, which means when he comes back to us in January, we will then do the same thing. Kind of just a
bring him back
3 to 4 day transition, bringing him back.
Yeah.
Why is that? What does the transition have, like, what does it do to the dog, or what's the purpose of that?
It doesn't happen in all dogs, but some dogs you can give them, stomach ache or the runs or diarrhea or something, because, I mean, think about us, right? If the only thing you ever ate every day was ribeye steak, that was the only thing you ate every single day, and then all of a sudden we just threw a plate of fettuccine Alfredo with chicken,
yeah,
it would probably give you a stomach ache, right? It's just that rapid adjustment to anything. And so what you do is you just mix the food. So day 1, it'll be more Inukshuk with a little bit of Pro Plan. Day 2 might be 50-50. Day 3 might be 75-25. Day 4, you go all Pro Plan and see how it works. But I have no problems with Purina Pro Plan. But, again, I have just had phenomenal results with Lead and my other dogs by feeding them the Inukshuk 30-25, which is a hotter food. But, my dogs are active. They're working. We're training at the house. They're not getting fat on it. It's not a food you would want to feed to your, wife's dog that lives in the backyard.
Right.
So.
Got it. Well, that was really cool to meet Nick. I'm pumped that we get to go back there every month, see the progress. He's very confident. That's one thing I picked up on. He's very confident in his ability to get Smoke where he needs to be in 3 months.
Yep.
There was no asterisks to any of the things that he said. He's just like,
correct.
He's like, we will get him there.
Correct. And, Nick and I have had conversations, and I've also expressed my expectations, I feel like, are realistic for what it should look like in 3 months as well. I think one of the mistakes that maybe a first or second time gun dog owner makes is, well, if I send my dog to the trainer for 3 months and I spend all this money, is my dog going to come back trained?
Right.
Well, the answer is no.
Right.
I mean, it's just simply not enough time.
Well, that's great, man.
And so I'm very excited. My first impression was also very positive of Nick, meeting him in person. He is confident, and just even his property, his kennel, it's all in order, right? That's a guy that has his shit together. Mm-hmm. Nice dog trailer, nice equipment, everything's laid out proper. Like, again, same with Kyle Fagler, Guide's Choice, right? You go there and it's like, all right, this is a professional operation.
Yeah, they take it serious.
It's not somebody that's kind of part-time training dogs for fun.
Yeah, Kyle's doing it, or Kyle and Nick are both doing it full-time.
Yeah, absolutely. They are full-time, dedicated dog trainers. So one advantage that we have this round with Smoke is that traditionally going into the fall, a lot of those client dogs go home. Because people want them for the season, understandably,
right.
Just like we will be next year. And so having the dog at the trainer through the fall and into the winter, if the age and timing work out, is kind of cool, because he's going to have less dogs on his truck and trailer, and so he's going to be able to focus more on my dog. Mm-hmm. So while I would have no problem sending one in the summer, we're going to next year, it is kind of a cool advantage for these first few months, is that there's less finished dogs or well-started dogs on the truck and trailer that he's got to run through every single day, because they're back at home with their owners and out in the field hunting.
Yep.
How long each day would you say that he's going to run him? Like, will he do like 10 minutes or half hour in the morning and then half hour in the evening, or what is the?
My guess would be something like that. I think every day, and the different stages are a little bit different. When a dog, for example, goes into force fetch, it can be stressful on the dog. So oftentimes they'll do a shorter training in the morning, shorter training in the evening, giving them a break, keeping it fun during the day, giving them a rest at night. But I think in general, anytime you're trying to train a dog for more than an hour, hour and a half a day, it's too much.
Yeah.
Whether it's from physical exertion or just mental stress. And so whether he does it, if he thinks Smoke can handle a solid straight hour, then I'm confident that's what he would do. But if he thinks, hey, it's better, I'm going to train in the morning with him, and then we're going to give him a break, and we're going to come back that afternoon and pick up where we left off, then he would do that.
What about introducing him to other dogs, like inside the kennel? Like, how does that work with this type of training? You know what? Well, let me preface it with, I see, Don and Wally and these guys have all these dogs out, and they send one at a time, and it's really cool. It's really sexy for the camera. It's really cool. Like, how would Nick or somebody like Kyle do that? Do they bring all the dogs out, make them sit and do that, or they run one at a time? How does that work?
I think it's a gradual process. The nice thing about dogs is unless the dog is an unsocialized asshole, they tend to pick up with other dogs really quickly. Mm-hmm. And the dogs that are currently in the kennel training, they're already used to being around a whole bunch of dogs because, they're airing out males together and they're airing out females together. These dogs are around each other. They're on the truck together. They're in the kennel together. They might even be out in the field working together, like you said.
So they just fall in line.
They just kind of fall in line. I think a new dog like Smoke, he would have them in the kennels. Like if it was me and I had a line of kennels, we'd be walking up and down the line of kennels, meeting dogs through the kennel, right? So there's still a barrier there. Can't have any fights or anything like that break out. But I think that retrievers in general, gun dogs, they're not mean-spirited dogs. They're social dogs. And I just think they pick up and get along with other dogs pretty quickly. Now, I've talked to trainers that have had, a problem dog here or there. Mm-hmm. Well, they know that, and they're going to then, work on that problem, but also not kick that dog out with 7 other male dogs to go air out and go to the bathroom in the morning.
Right. Got it.
He's going to air the group, pull them in, and then air the one dog.
Got it. Well, I'm pumped to go see Canton Retrievers, Nick, here in a month.
Yeah.
And see the process, see the progress.
Yeah.
It'll be really, really cool to see how far he's come in 1 month.
Month 1 will be fun. My guess is it'll be really shiny obedience work.
Which would be great.
Which is great. But then month 2 and going into 3, those will be really exciting when he's getting into force fetch. The dog's now doing obedience off lead with an e-collar. It just, the fun thing about dog training is it just gets sexier and sexier the further down the line it gets, right? Yeah. I mean, it's really cool that a dog can heel and sit perfectly and be perfectly obedient. But let's be honest, we're all hunting guys, and we want to see what the dog looks like when he's going to be hunting.
So at what point would you then decide that, okay, I want to take this to the next level and go do some hunt tests? Like, what is that? Like, when does that happen? And then what type of training does he need from, 17 months, because that we're going to run him through that season, that next summer, which he'll be 2.5.
2.5. That would be the summer in my mind that I would then start running him in hunt tests.
And would you do the training for that?
Yeah.
Would you work with him, or like how does that work?
I think at that point I would do the training, but if I have a question, being able to reach out to Nick, hey, I'm running into this problem. Is there something that do you have an idea on how to work through this with Smoke? But after these 2 full rounds of training and kind of 1.5 full waterfowl seasons, Smoke will be ready to go run hunt tests. The nice thing is if a guy was training his own dog or you were a trainer that had dogs, there's hunt test levels for all stages of dogs. I mean, we could go run a junior hunt test right now with Smoke and he would pass.
Yeah.
But that's, simple marks, single, double, whatever. However their specifications are, they're very, very simple and very elementary. Mm-hmm. And on up from there. Well, once we go into the hunt test world, if he's cranking and handling and running blinds good and everything's sharp after all this time, I don't have to start him at level 1. I can put him right into a, say a season test or a finish test or whatever and just go right in from there.
Got
so
it. And that's something that you're interested in doing?
It is. I've never done it before because, with running, businesses and having younger kids at home, plus all the hunting that we do, I just haven't really had the time in the summer to go travel around and go to hunt tests. I think it would be really fun. Part of the reason I haven't done it is because I know for a fact I'm going to like it, and I'll get way into it. But now you think about this, 2 summers from now, my youngest child, Ivory, she'll be going to college. And so now all of a sudden I'm an empty nester. I've got the time, can go to this town, go to that town, go to this town for the weekend and run hunt tests. I think it'd be fun to do, and if for no other reason, it'll keep me motivated and sharp to stay training every day.
Yeah.
Because the last thing I want to do is roll into a hunt test and look like an idiot.
Yeah.
As much as I love to win, I hate to lose more.
Yeah.
And so
I know the feeling.
Yeah. So we're going to want to go and have a dog that can perform, understanding where your dog is at, and not putting him in a level of hunt test that's too high. But, yeah, I'm really excited to stick my toe in the water in the hunt test game. But I'm excited to do it at that point in life because I will have the time and ability to focus on it in the off season, which is another motivating factor to potentially get another dog next summer.
Yeah.
Because it'd be really fun to have a couple dogs to run in hunt tests.
Yeah, just maximize your time there.
If you're going to go run, might as well run 2.
Yeah.
I could take Led to a hunt test right now and he would crush it. But I've never ran hunt tests with Led, and by that point, Led will be 8.5 years old. There's no, other than just for fun, there's no real benefit in, running Led or titling Led in the hunt test world.
Right. That's great.
He's not going to be bred.
Is that the only reason? Surely that's not the only reason you would do a hunt test.
It's not the only reason to title them, but if you do have plans of breeding the dog, number one, the dog, when he's 2 years old, needs to go through all the OFA, which is Orthopedic Foundation for Animals, hip testing, elbow testing, make sure he's clear of all genetic, diseases or conditions, and then the dog could be bred then. But if he's titled, it's just an indicator of the fact that these dogs are biddable and trainable and can do the job that are in this dog's pedigree.
Right.
When you look at Smoke's pedigree, it's loaded with dogs that are master hunters and above.
Yeah.
And so all that tells me is that he comes from a line and generation of dogs that has been trained to do the same job we want him to do, and they've succeeded at it at a high level.
Yeah. Got it.
So it's just an indicator of potential success for breeding. Anytime you breed a dog, it's a bit of roll of the dice.
Yep,
right? Even if you breed 2 really good dogs together. I mean, how many times have you seen a husband and wife that are both super attractive and they have a kid that, has a face for radio? Right?
It doesn't happen a ton, but I do agree.
It happens, though.
Yeah, it does happen.
Right? And even in a litter of puppies, let's be honest. I mean, you can have the exact same litter of puppies and they can all have different levels of, drive or quirks or trainability or different things. I mean, look at people that have multiple siblings.
Got it.
They're very different people.
Yeah.
But have the same kind of standard bar of size, look, temperament, etc. So my reasoning for running hunt tests, again, would be for the fun of doing it, the enjoyment, and the motivation to just keep training and have fun. I mean, part of the reason I love waterfowl hunting so much is the dog side of it. And so I would like to be able to have more time to focus on the dog side of it, which with life circumstance I do now and will continue to over the next few years.
Yeah. There's no doubt when you see a master hunter out in the field, I've only hunted with a handful of them, but when you see them in the field, there is something different about them. They have had the extra time. You can see that.
Yeah.
But they have had the extra effort put into them.
Well, you remember
Brian
5
Rex's
years
dog.
ago, Brian Rex's dog Dixie.
Oh.
And that was a field trial champion. Also, had crushed hunt tests, but was really excelling in the field trial world, which is even more difficult than hunt tests.
Right.
That day that we hunted with him in eastern Montana.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, I'm watching that. We sailed a goose, and I'm watching this dog. he sent her on like a 700-yard blind retrieve over a couple of fences.
And down through a couple of gullies.
Down
like
through
sagebrush
gullies.
gullies where you got to come back up the other side. Hunting a flat field up on top of a plateau, and then every break that comes up is filled with sagebrush, and she'd just disappear, and all of a sudden she'd get back up to the other side. He wouldn't even have to stop her. She'd have the same line going.
She's already on a perfect line.
It was
Again,
unbelievable.
that dog had a very, very advanced level of training. I would really like to get to the point where my dogs are at that level.
Yeah.
Because is it totally necessary in the field? Probably not. But I would rather have too much than not enough.
Well, what I'll say is that there's only a handful of times in the blind when the whole blind, no matter who's there, erupts.
Mm-hmm.
One, when there's been like a really cool shot made, single shot made, or a really cool rain out where everybody's just like, that was awesome. Everybody's high-fiving and joking. There's only one other one, and it's when the dog makes an incredible retrieve.
Yep.
Like, that is when the blind, everybody loves to see the dog make an incredible retrieve no matter what. So having a dog or a tool that has the ability to make that happen when the time arises is just awesome to have.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't love that show?
Absolutely. I mean, again, for me, it's one of the best parts of the hunt. And, you know, backing up, too, when I look at it, the amount of time, effort, and money that we put into our waterfowl hunting, but travel and gear and time and mental capital and everything, my dogs, our crew's dogs, should reflect that and operate at the same level.
Yep. Just like
And
everything
so,
else.
You know, it would be a shame to have done this much work and effort to run a dog that is mediocre at best.
I agree.
And it's just not something I'm interested in. You know, growing up, I had sled dogs. I had hound dogs that we hunted mountain lions and bears and bobcats with. I've had working stock dogs and waterfowl dogs. And I've just been around enough working dogs to know one thing about myself, and that is that I really appreciate good dogs. It costs the same amount of money to feed and maintain and veterinary bills for a good dog as it does a bad dog. And I just don't have any time and space in my life for bad or even mediocre dogs.
Well, right. I mean, the extra training, sending it to, like sending Smoke to Nick.
To a pro trainer.
It's expensive to do that.
Absolutely.
So there's no doubt about that there is a barrier for some people to be able to send them off and do it. But there are good programs out there for people to, ease into it themselves and work on it themselves as well.
Well, and especially over the past 5 to 10 years, I've seen a handful of these online programs come out that truly, if a guy or gal is willing to commit the time every single day and just follow the program, it is something you can do on your own.
No doubt.
I mean, it is absolutely achievable on your own. The only way to have a great dog is not that you have to send it to a pro trainer. For me and us in our situation with everything we have going on at Flying V Ranches and all the ranch management, all of the work with the, Flying V Waterfowl Show on Meat Eater, there's so many things going on right now, and then going into a season like this season, the truth is, Smoke wouldn't get worked every single day by me from now until January 1st. No way.
Not a chance.
And I just have to be honest with myself and know that. And so knowing that, if I have the ability to and the willingness to make the investment to send him to a pro trainer, to me it's a no-brainer, right? It's a very easy decision. But I understand that not everybody can do that, and there are, to your point, 100% programs that if you are willing to double down, you can do it.
You just have to put the time in yourself. You have to commit yourself, because your dog is going to be a reflection of the time you put into him.
100%.
So if you were wanting to do it on your own, you would want to pick a time that's like the summer or whatever, and you set 6 months, you could have a really good dog.
It depends on, your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? Or where you live in the country. For example, if you lived in the southern part of the country, the truth is the best time to do it might be the fall and through the winter. But it depends on when you get the puppy, the age of the puppy.
But I'm asking, so you could take 6 months of your time that you have available, and you could go through those online courses?
Yes, you could. I think in 6 months you'd have a really nice dog. I think it would take more time to get a truly what I would consider a finished dog. In the world of gun dogs, you'll hear the term meat dog thrown out. Meat dog just means he's only kind of trained, but when I shoot birds, he goes and picks them up, and he's good enough for me. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Everybody's definition of good is different. You'll also see somebody say this is a started dog and he can pick up single marks, and the next guy says I've got a started dog and he's running triples and running cold blinds pretty good, right? Everybody's definition's a little bit different.
And it depends on the trainer. So if you're going to do the dog yourself, the dog may have it in him, right? So let's say we know the dog has it in him, and you even dedicate the time to put into him. There's still some lag time there for you and the dog to get to know each other, because if you're not an experienced trainer, it's like learning anything new, learning any sort of trade new. Yet there's just time, and you can watch all the videos you want. You still have to just get out there and mess up and do like you're going to make mistakes.
Learn together with the dog.
Whereas a professional trainer already has done all of those mistakes, so as soon it's just like hiring a professional electrician or anything,
Right. The nice thing about a well-bred gun dog, whether you're sending it to a trainer or whether you're doing the work yourself, that dog will afford you some mistakes, because their natural instinct is so strongly wanting to go and be birdie, retrieve, get in the water, be comfortable with gunfire. That's the natural instinct of these well-bred dogs already. And so you don't have to train them to do that. You just have to amplify that natural instinct and then guide them in the directions that you want them to do. And so, again, I would confidently tell somebody they can train their own dog as long as they are honest with themselves and have the time and the commitment to do it. And if they try and they don't commit to it at the highest level, that can even be okay as well. Just be honest with yourself and have the correct expectations for the dog, because it's not fair to the dog if you train, let's say, only 50% of the time, but when you get out to the field, you expect 100% out of the dog.
Yeah.
You're not going to get 100% if you put in 50%. The dog is going to travel with you and ride at your level.
Yeah.
So managing expectations, being fair to the dog, I think is really important. It's something that I think a lot of gun dog owners themselves don't do. But to your point, pro trainers do, because they've been through it. They also don't have the same emotional connection to the dog that you do, so they can be a little bit more objective, right?
And a little bit more stern and a little bit more everything, right?
Right.
They're just pros.
Yeah. And they can tell you, hey, man, here's the level your dog's at. If you come and get him today, or if you leave him another month or whatever it is, stay in communication with your trainer. I think a good pro trainer should stay in close communication with his clients and update his clients. Hey, here's where your dog's at. I remember there was times that, Kyle would call, and there'd be times he'd be like, your dog is the single best dog I have in this kennel right now. He's crushing at everything. And then they would introduce something new and maybe hit a bit of a roadblock. And Kyle and I are buddies, so he'll speak very openly with me. But I'd call him. He's like, dude, I hate your dog. He is a burr under my saddle right now, and I'm sick of him, and yada, yada, yada. And he's like, but I'll call you in a week. And then he calls me 3 or 4 days later, and he's like, hey, remember that thing your dog really sucked at? He got it. Yeah. We're good. He's crushing. We're good to go. So
I remember when we were down at Kyle's last year, and we got to listen to him pick apart all the things that you messed up with lead over the course of the season since the last time he had seen him.
Totally.
He was like, well, I see you screwed that up.
Totally.
Well, I see you screwed that up.
Absolutely. And
because that's normal. I mean, that's going to happen because you're not a pro trainer.
Well, and the other thing that trainers and gun dog owners will tell you, jokingly but also seriously, is there's no better way to screw up a well-trained gun dog than take him hunting.
Yeah.
Because hunting scenarios are never controlled, whereas when you're training and you're running drills, you're setting up the drill, here's what we are going to do, period, the end.
Yeah.
Well, it never works out that way hunting. So even the best dogs I've ever seen, when they start the season, they're sharp, they're tack sharp, and the lug nuts start to get a little loose after 100 days in the field, or 50 days in the field, or even 30 days in the field. And so,
well, because you get a little loose on him too, like
totally
let him get away with something because we're celebrating,
or
whatever, right?
Or it's like, we sent him out on a retrieve and he did it and it's good, but there's some things we could work on. But like, here comes another wave of geese. I don't care. Get back in the blind.
Yeah.
Like, we got to go. We're hunting. So when you're hunting is the priority, and the dog needs to be able to function within that environment, right?
I can't wait till you tell Kyle about that trick that you taught Led when we were hunting in Wyoming, and it was echoing your calls off the rock walls and everything, and he got confused of where he was at, and he took the goose to the truck.
Yeah.
We couldn't recall him because he couldn't tell where we were at.
Yeah, the truck was parked right next to a cliff face. When I'd blow the whistle, that sound was echoing off of that cliff face, and it was coming back at him, so he ran straight to the sound.
It's a trick that Kyle didn't even know that Led had.
Yeah.
It just was the wrong way.
Well, and it was a big goose, so his face was covered with the wing.
Yeah, he couldn't even see.
It was just like he had that goose turned up a little bit, and that wing was covering his eyes, and he just went to the sound. I mean, so one retrieve I was going to talk about that I was really impressed by last year was with Bobby and Nigel, and we were hunting with Kirk Gibson and his son Cam and Bob and us, Ryan, and we had sailed that goose, and he just kept going and kept going and kept going, and you're like, send him. Bobby sends him, and the goose disappears, and then the dog keeps going, and you're just like, you got to let him go. He's got a mark. Just let him go. Let him go. This bird is going to die. And then the dog's gone, the dog's gone, the dog's gone. Here comes another group. We shoot into the group. All of a sudden, we turn around, and here's Nigel coming back with that goose across the field. But same thing. He just didn't even know where we were because we were so hidden. And he was just dead nuts sprint out the back of the blind, which he hadn't left out of the back of the blind yet. So he was a little bit disoriented there too, but that was an awesome retrieve.
It was an awesome
retrieve. That was really long.
It was a really long retrieve, and it was really cool because it was good on Bobby to just let him go, just trust it and just let him go.
Trust the dog.
Like at some point, you got to just trust him.
Yeah.
And then I remember seeing that train in the background. It's just like, shit, he's flying towards the train, which is like 1.5 miles away.
Yeah, luckily that was a very long ways off.
Right. But still, you're just looking at it like you got to just trust the dog is on it. That was really good.
I mean, I think in training we can get so focused on making these dogs do exactly what we say, which is good. However, we also have to understand their instinct to go pick up the bird and their nose is better than our eyesight.
Yeah.
So, that goose had sailed. He had gone past that row of corn, the standing corn we had left, and then the dog disappears into that, and it's like now it's on nature. Nature is now taking the wheel because that dog was locked in on the goose. He knows there's one there, so he's going to be hunting hard. It wasn't just a straight blind retrieve. And it took him a while to find it. For all we know, it took a while for that goose to land, and maybe the goose landed and was still running or kind of half-ass flying by the time Nigel actually got a line of sight on him again. But all we know is that it was a great moment for Bobby to learn, just trust your dog, let it happen. And I think there was a point when we all kind of were just a little bit nervous. Not just
questioning.
So at what point do we stop trusting the dog, right? Because it was a while.
He disappeared. Yeah, well, that bird was still like 3 feet above the corn when he crossed it.
Yeah.
And so, and he's going to fly into the pasture.
Yeah.
And then maybe into the water. We just had no idea where he was going to go, but he was going to go down somewhere. Out there. And Nigel at least was locked on, right? He let him go at the right time. Bird was still in the air, but going down.
Yep.
Yeah,
I just remember the look on Bobby's face when Nigel popped out with that bird. It's just like, it's like a beaming with pride,
and
right?
And again, the whole blind just erupts with just celebration and excitement.
Yeah,
right?
Everybody was just like, holy smokes. I can't believe he just did that. That was like the longest retrieve of the season.
It was so good.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And the dogs are impressive animals. They're so fun to have around. Not only for the companionship, but when it's time for the rubber to meet the road in the blind, there is, in my opinion, nothing better than a well-trained gun dog who can do the job, do it well, do it efficiently, and be a contributing member of the crew.
It's really neat to see because I haven't been around a lot of working dogs like in the bird world, so it's grown on me as one of my favorite things about this sport.
Yeah. Well, last year being your
With
first
good ones.
full year
Yeah,
waterfowl
for sure.
hunting, you got to see
Some of the
basically
best.
3 of the best gun dogs that I've been around,
Yeah.
Rip and Nigel and Led, and you got to see them day in and day out, and
Kind of spoiled.
yeah, it was really cool. And it'll be fun for you next season. I mean, you're going to see Smoke as a puppy doing a little bit this year, but next season, even then, man, I'm telling you, it still takes some reps and time for him just to even just figure out the program. Like
Right.
when we get to the field, we're going to be setting up, and there's a bit of a lag. Now's the time to run around, get the zoomies out, go to the bathroom, get your mind right, like kind of calm down a little bit, and then no, we're going to go park the truck. And Smoke or Led likes to kind of goof around, run around, get the zoomies out, take a crap, do
Mark
the
the
thing.
kill hole.
Yeah, he loves to crap right in the hole. I don't know how he knows exactly where the hole is in the decoys, but he does. Like to take a crap there, but it's really interesting because when I load him back up and we go park the truck and I get him out and we start walking back to the field, he's like a different dog.
Yeah, he's got his game face on.
He knows. He's like, holy crap, here we go. As soon as I get in that blind, it's going to happen. Like I'm going to work. And I mean, when he is walking back to the blind after he and I parked the truck, he is head held high, tail high, wagging. I mean, he's just like, here we go. And so that's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of days that Led has spent in the field and getting that experience. And there's no substitute for that, right?
Yeah.
You can't train that into a dog.
Nope.
You can't train real-life hunting scenarios. So you do all the training, but then you have to get in the reps hunting. And you also have to know no matter how well-trained the dog is, he is going to screw up while he's learning. There's going to be mistakes. And again, what I said earlier, correct the dog, but be fair to the dog. Understand you might have been on 1,000 goose hunts in your lifetime. This dog's been on 6.
Right.
Give him a break, right? Correct him for whatever you know that he should have known not to do. But if it's an honest mistake, be honest with the dog and be fair to the dog.
Yep.
Because over time, he or she will develop into a nice gun dog if you're patient and you have your head on straight and you're level-headed. The worst thing that can happen, and I've seen this before over and over, is you have a young dog in the field, guy hasn't put in the time that he should have put in with the dog, and you go out hunting and the dog starts screwing up or the dog gets too excited and kind of short circuits out, and then the owner just loses his mind and is just screaming at the dog or being rough with the dog. That is only setting the dog back. You are not being fair with the dog.
Yeah.
So I think it's something for people to keep in mind. Manage your expectations, be fair, but be consistent. If you correct him for something today and he does it again tomorrow, give him the same correction. Be consistent with the dog. They're smarter than we give them credit for. They will figure it out. You just got to be consistent and be fair.
Well, that's great.
That's awesome.
Where can people find Nick?
So Nick, his Instagram is Canton Retrievers, Canton, Canton Retrievers. His website is also cantonretrievers.com. He is in, western Montana. Very excited to be working with him. We've talked about Kyle Fagler. His is Guide's Choice Retrievers. He's out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. So if you're on the Front Range of Colorado, Wyoming, anywhere around there, I would unequivocally, without hesitation, give Kyle Fagler a strong recommendation to use as a trainer. And his is guideschoiceretrievers.com.
Yeah, that's great.